What's going on, guys? It's Fantasy Stock Exchange here, and today we are continuing our must-own players that we cannot stop drafting series, and taking on these wide receivers. Going to be talking about 5 guys at the top of your drafts that we can't stop drafting, as well as 5 guys later on that could potentially bring you value if you're able to get them on your lineups. And these are all courtesy of Underdog Fantasy. These are guys that we have high stake in, high skin in the game in. We put our money to our mouth. Corey, how you doing today? You ready to get into this video?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about a lot of these guys already, so we're going to keep this one brief as we did with the other ones. Try and keep this 15, 20, 25 minutes so that you guys can quickly get, if you're struggling for your fantasy draft, go check out the playlist I made on the channel called Watch This If You're Panicking for Your Fantasy Draft. This video will most definitely be in there because this is a video where you can get some quick hitting guys I should target in the early round, quick hitting guys I should target late round, and be prepared for your fantasy draft that way. So I'm doing good. If you guys enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe. We know we're bringing in a lot of new audience members to the table this time of season. So if you guys haven't already subscribed, it is totally free to do so, and it helps us grow tremendously. So we appreciate if you enjoy the content that you hit that subscribe button. So before we get into everything, we're going to hit the intro.
All right, so to start off with our early round players, these top 5 guys that we own a ton of in terms of our Underdog Fantasy ownership, take it away with the guy that is representing your favorite team, the guy that is hanging on your door behind you. Take it away with Mike Evans.
Yeah, Mike Evans, about 10 feet behind me over my left shoulder. This is a guy that is my 6th highest owned wide receiver overall, my highest owned wide receiver that is going probably in the top 5 to 6 rounds. The reason I like Mike Evans so much, he's currently going off the board as wide receiver 13, 33rd overall. And part of this is due to the fact that this is a best ball format. So Mike Evans is going to have big spike weeks. But in redraft, I really like Mike Evans as well, because this is a guy that when you think about this logically and you don't overcloud it with target competition and things of that nature, we're talking about an offense that is going to be top 3 in scoring, top 3 in pass attempts. And he is the primary red zone and downfield option for a quarterback that ranked number 1 in the NFL last year in deep targets and air yards per attempt. So he's the downfield option of an offense that likes to throw the ball up. No risk it, no biscuit. Tom Brady and Bruce Arians, they like to throw the ball up. And he's the primary red zone option, evidenced by the fact that only Devontae Adams had more targets inside the 10-yard line than him last year. And this guy still has 130, 150 target potential, like I said, in a very good offense. And I brought this up before, so I'll just skim over it real quick. But in the 10 full games that all 3 of the Bucs receivers played on the field, where we remove week 17 when Evans left early, and we removed the NFC Championship when Antonio Brown didn't play, you can see that Mike Evans was the target leader on the team. And their snaps during this time was clearly Evans and Godwin as the 1 and 2. Antonio Brown is the 3rd receiver. They mixed in guys like Scotty Miller, guys like Tyler Johnson. Jalen Darden will be involved this year, the 4th round rookie that they took. So Evans is the guy that I want in this Bucs wide receiver core. And on top of that, this is an ultra durable wide receiver. He plays through injuries all the time, hasn't missed more than like 2 games a season since his entire 8-year career. This is a guy, 7 straight 1,000-yard seasons to start off his career, only receiver in NFL history to do that. My opinion, fantasy doesn't have to be that hard. Just pick Mike Evans.
Yeah, I fully agree here. The thing with Mike Evans, it's hilarious because coming into last year, there was like a stigma around Tom Brady, like, oh, he's just going to dump it off. He's just going to dump it off without taking into effect that coaching matters. Bruce Arians wants his quarterback to push the ball down the field. Bill Belichick was more than content with Tom Brady on a more system-based passing offense. We saw last year, Tom Brady has no fear in getting Mike Evans the deep bomb, in really stretching out a defense, in passing the ball at a high clip. And Mike Evans is just going to continually be disrespected because of the nature of his game. But what's not to like here? You got a big-time touchdown threat on one of the best offenses in the league that stretches the ball down the field. Absolutely agree with Mike Evans, a clear top 14, 15 wide receiver for me personally as well. And I don't understand why people are complaining that they're currently getting him in the 3rd, 4th round area. This is a guy that in normal years, if the wide receiver position wasn't so stacked this year, would probably be going at the tail end of your 2nd round.
Yeah, and that's basically where he's been going throughout his entire career. And a lot of people are going to overthink him. Don't be one of those people. So another guy that is going in that range, that early round range, my 2nd highest owned wide receiver in these early rounds, I believe he's my 7th highest owned overall, is Keenan Allen. Wide receiver 9, currently in ADP, 27th overall. The case for him, again, is very simple. We have another good offense, another good quarterback that has seen a lot of offensive improvements around Keenan Allen, with the fact that They brought in a left tackle, a center that should help shore up that offensive line, make that offense move a lot more smoothly, which in turn affects Justin Herbert's play and will make him a better quarterback. And we have the fact that Keenan Allen, in every game last year, that he was healthy, that he didn't leave early, that he wasn't limited in before the game, that he played with Justin Herbert last year. This was a guy that was getting 10 plus targets a game. He has that high target ceiling to potentially lead the NFL in targets this year. Touchdown ceiling will be there now with a great quarterback in Justin Herbert. I really don't see too much of a difference, or a difference at all, really. They're in the same tier for me between him, Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, and A.J. Brown. They're all in the same tier for me, yet Keenan Allen usually goes 6 to 10 picks after all those three guys, and sometimes 10 to 12 picks behind Hopkins and Ridley.
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree. When you're talking about Keenan Allen, I mean, you're getting one of the best overall separators, route runners in the NFL on one of the highest performing, highest upside offenses in the league with Justin Herbert at the helm. Again, you guys would have saw my sleeper video yesterday talking about Jared Cook, a guy that might appear later in this week when we're talking about the same type of video format. I personally believe that this Chargers offense is ready under the tutelage of Joe Lombardi to stretch the field with Justin Herbert. He's got the cannon, he's got the accuracy to be able to do so. And that could only bode well for the potential ADOT increase we can see in his number one receiver in Keenan Allen. You got that. You got the fact that as much as we love Austin Eckler, he's not a clear threat in the red zone area, meaning that they're more likely to revert to the passing game in that regard. I'm all in on Keenan Allen. And listen, if you can get this guy anywhere outside of the top 5 overall wide receivers, I think it's a value. And he's currently going off the board as the 9th overall wide receiver.
Yeah, he's my wide receiver 6. He's a guy I would take right behind DeAndre Hopkins at wide receiver 5.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. Again, he's in that clear tier 3 for me. I personally have Devontae in his own tier. I have the next tier being Hill, Diggs, and Ridley and Hopkins. And then Keenan Allen loads that next year of AJ Brown, the next guy we're going to talk about on our list, DK Metcalf. So I fully agree that Keenan Allen is well deserving of this spot. Speaking of guys on that list of that third tier, you see the jerseys behind me, but it's CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver of the Dallas Cowboys, wide receiver 12, 31st overall player off the board. And I get it. This is a projection. A lot of casuals out there might say, oh, what did CeeDee Lamb do to deserve a top 12 spot? He only had 900 yards. He only had 5 touchdowns. Well, when we talk about fantasy football, the number one thing that if you've been subscribed to our Fantasy Stock Exchange channel, you would have learned is bet on young ascending talents and opportunity. CeeDee Lamb has all that available to him. He's got the talent. We saw last year 79th percentile against man coverage, 93rd percentile against press. As a rookie on a team, on an offense that truly was missing a lot of pieces, he was still able to perform week in and week out and be a viable fantasy football wide receiver too. The thing that really encourages me on the potential breakout on why I think CeeDee Lamb at his ceiling could be a 1,300 plus yard, 10 plus touchdown wide receiver is the fact that the volume uptick that he should see going into year 2 should be tremendous. The versatility that he could see, again, all throughout preseason, he's been playing all over the field, the outside, the slot. He's really been used in a full capacity, while last year spent over 85% of his snaps strictly in the slot, like a Cooper Kupp of the Cowboys. I think that that type of versatility in this type of offense with Dak Prescott, again, a guy I've mentioned multiple times as my early 2021 MVP candidate, I think all the cards are in the making for CeeDee Lamb to have a monster year. And take away the bias, Corey. You can input as well that I'm not just talking out of my ass when I talk about CeeDee Lamb.
No, he's not. I have him as my wide receiver 11, I believe, or my wide receiver 10 in fantasy this year. He's a guy I'm all in on as well. When you look at what he did with Dak last year, this was legitimately a top 12 wide receiver in the first 5 weeks of his NFL career, which is absolutely impressive to see. He would have been right there probably with Justin Jefferson if Dak had played the whole season. In terms of production, in terms of receiving yardage and things of that nature. With the Bucs, with the Cowboys, you can expect a top 3, top 5 passing volume offense. And you can also expect that offense to be very effective given the quarterback play, the offensive line play, and the weapons around those guys. So investing in those offenses is never a bad idea. So we can move on to the next highest owned wide receiver on this list for me is Brandon Aiyuk. He's currently my 4th highest owned wide receiver in Underdog Drafts, 26% ownership that I have on this guy. Wide receiver 23, 56th overall player off the board. With Brandon Aiyuk, you guys have heard us talk about his perception numbers and things of that nature. So I'm going to kind of provide a little bit of a different argument on Brandon Aiyuk. 13.8 was the amount of half PPR points per game that Brandon Aiyuk was averaging from week 3 on once he got a starting job in the 49ers offense. And I know a lot of people are scared about Deebo Samuel and they're scared about George Kittle. One, Deebo Samuel's already out with an injury. He's already injured, which doesn't shock me at all. Two, the fact that Brandon Aiyuk was producing at a wide receiver 12 in points per game level at the beginning of his NFL career with Nick Mullins for half of that stretch. He was legitimately producing higher PPR points per game or half PPR points per game numbers than DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Evans, Robert Woods, DJ Moore, and so many others. He produced regardless of what happened on the field. We know his reception perception numbers were excellent, 85th plus percentile versus man and press coverage. And again, he just produced 7th in red zone targets per game among guys like Devontae Adams and Mike Evans, Adam Thielen. Like, that was the company he was in the red zone. And he has the downfield role in this offense. Deebo is a short target guy. He's a gadget guy. George Kittle is the possession receiver of this team. Just bet on the talent of a great rookie season and don't worry about Deebo and Kittle, because at the wide receiver position, if you get open, if you catch the ball, you make plays after the catch and you score touchdowns, you get the ball more. That's how the wide receiver position works. It's not running back. You don't need volume determined by your coaching staff.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Again, I'm not going to go too in depth here because we got to speed up the video a little bit. But man, y'all will hear more information on Brandon Aiyuk from me later this week. Don't you worry. The one thing I will add, if Trey Lance is able to earn the starting job on this team, listen, that guy's got an absolute howitzer. Deebo Samuel ain't working down the field. So those targets are going to go to Brandon Aiyuk, who is absolutely the 3-level threat of this team. Man, I'm all in on this kid. He's a wide receiver 18 for me, and I currently have him above 20% ownership on Underdog as well, over $200 invested into him. So yeah, love the player. And another guy that I'm going to get into a little bit more later this week, but going to give you the brief right now, is T. Higgins, wide receiver from the Cincinnati Bengals. If you've learned anything from these last 3 names, bet on young, ascending second-year wide receivers, because this kid, the talent, the production, everything was on display as a rookie. And kind of the same allure that we have with CeeDee Lamb, but what Cincinnati kind of represents in terms of their pace of play, in terms of their potential volume of the offense, is what really allures me to T. Higgins. Again, this is a guy that showed last year he could be a pure X-style alpha wide receiver on the outside. And we've seen, even throughout the preseason, as much as we love Jamar Chase, he's probably going to get off to a slow start. Again, he struggled with drops. He struggled with inconsistencies in separating. And that'll happen when you haven't played football in over a year and a half. However, T. Higgins has looked great. T. Higgins has been the alpha, the lead dog in training camp thus far. And I think at the very minimum, during the early portion of the season, we could be looking at a top 8 overall producer until Chase gets on his feet. And even when Chase gets on his feet, I think we're looking at a bona fide wide receiver too.
Exactly. I think the thing that separates him between CeeDee Lamb and some of these other second-year wide receivers is the fact that this guy can legitimately still be the number 1 receiver in his offense. I know they took a receiver top 5, but we're talking redraft right now. We're not talking dynasty. I'm talking about a guy that could legitimately be a top 10 receiver to start the season, because we know how much this team is going to throw the ball. And like you said, if Chase struggles at all, Higgins is going to reap the benefits of that big time. So again, we could have mentioned Jerry Jeudy. We could have mentioned Chase Claypool in this area of the draft because we do have high stake ownership in them. But we figured that was kind of, went without saying. So invest in these second-year wide receivers. Now let's get into the late round guys, and a guy that both of us, I mean, this is kind of like the border between early and late round, but Will Fuller is a guy that we both love. So I'll let you get into him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Will Fuller is a bona fide stud. He's got everything you look for from a wide receiver, especially where he's currently going in the mid rounds. He's going in the dead zone area. And if I have to choose between Will Fuller and like Myles Gaskin, I'm taking Will Fuller any day and twice on Sundays. Listen, the talent, the production was all there last year on a per game basis. This was a guy that was the half PPR wide receiver 5, and he was wide receiver 8 on a point per game basis in those first 12 games that he played last year. Yet, because of a change of scenery and because of a 1-game suspension, he's really falling down to the wide receiver 42, 86th overall player on Underdog ADP. It makes no sense. You're able to get him in the 8th round, and he is the perfect definition of what we want from our flex. Super, super high ceiling, number 1 role on that Miami Dolphins wide receiver core. I love Jalen Waddle. He's going to take some time to get acclimated. Will Fuller is a better wide receiver today. And as a result, I'm going to value him as such, as the wide receiver 1 on what I think could be a surprising, intriguing offense, depending on the development of Tua Tagovailoa. I love Will Fuller. You love Will Fuller. And if you don't love Will Fuller, you're clearly not a fan of the channel, because Will Fuller is a cheat code in those mid rounds.
It's wild to me how people forget, like, this guy was legitimately better than Stephon Diggs and DeAndre Hopkins from at the beginning of the season. From the time he started with Deshaun Watson, obviously he had a great quarterback then. He was the number 1 in that offense. But if Tua takes a step forward, Will Fuller is still the number 1 in this offense. He's still going to have the same role he had last year. So I think he can definitely produce at least wide receiver 2 numbers once he's back on the field. And again, it's just a 1-game suspension. He served 5 games of it last year. And I don't think the PEDs were actually the cause of him playing well last year. I think he's always been a good player. He just stayed healthy last year. So let's move on to a kind of a cheat code. We made this 10 players that we can't stop drafting, but we love both of these guys, so we're going to talk about both of them. So I'll let you take it away with the Jets receivers.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, drink twice if you've heard us talk about these guys at all this offseason. You can go back, watch every video, take a shot every time you hear us mention the name Elijah Moore or Corey Davis. You'll probably be drunk by midday. But yeah, when you're watching Elijah Moore, when you're watching Corey Davis play football, let's talk about Elijah Moore at Ole Miss last year. He was our pet cat. He was the guy that we put all our chips in the middle on pre-draft cycle. He was my wide receiver 4. I believe he was your wide receiver 4 as well. And when you're talking about Elijah Moore, it's easy to see why we love him. I mean, this guy was phenomenal in college. In terms of separation, I mean, Matt Harmon himself actually charted him on reception perception. And he was, apart from Devonta Smith, the best performing separator in the entire class. 95th percentile against man coverage.
That was actually better than Smith's number.
Yeah. 83rd percentile against press and 79th percentile against zone. And this is a guy that after getting drafted at, I believe it was 34th overall in this past NFL draft, has already acclimated himself as a true leader of men on that Jets team. Training camp has been balling out, has really developed a rapport with Zach Wilson. And I'm going to mention the Antonio or AJ Brown clip as much as possible, but AJ Brown has said multiple times that he truly believes in the talent, in the personality, and the character that Elijah Moore is bringing to this team. And people might ask, well, why does character and personality matter when you're a rookie? How do you earn playing time? You appeal to the coaching staff. And if the coaching staff sees that this guy is mega talented, separates like nobody's business, and carries himself like a professional at 21 years old, I think this could be a guy that is in that realm. I'm not going to say Antonio Brown, because that might be ridiculous to say right off the bat, but that type of elite separating rookie who comes in Justin Jefferson style and puts up over 1,000 yards and 7-8 touchdowns. I see that in Elijah Moore's realm of possibilities. And not only realm of possibilities, I think that's actually a likely scenario for him, which is why I have him as a top 35 wide receiver for me. While he's currently going off the board as a wide receiver 56, he is currently my highest owned overall player on Underdog Fantasy. Almost 38% ownership, over $300 bought in on Elijah Moore. Love the talent. Quick thing I'll say on Corey Davis, again, another guy we've talked about ad nauseum, but this is a guy that we've seen throughout the preseason absolutely dominated. He was targeted with Zach Wilson on 10 of his 13 routes run in weeks 1 and 2. And he's carried that price tag. He signed a near $13 million year alpha-like contract this offseason and has played like an alpha-like wide receiver, especially while Elijah Moore was missing time with his quad injury. So I love both these guys. If you can get both of them at value, I mean, I think you're personally looking at wide receiver 2-3 archetypes at the cheap.
I seriously think I have personal money down on this. I think Zach Wilson's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. And these two receivers are going to reap the benefits of that. And at least from what I've seen so far, the drumbeat's been positive at any point with the New York Jets. It's aside from the Achilles injury of their best defensive lineman, it's been Zach Wilson looks great. It's been Corey Davis looks great. It's been Elijah Moore looks great. Just positive, positive, positive. It's not what we're hearing in Jacksonville. It's not what we're hearing sometimes in Chicago with Justin Fields about his playing time and things of that nature. So Zach Wilson and this offense, I think, are going to surprise a lot of people, and these two receivers are definitely going to be the beneficiaries of that. So on to another rookie wide receiver in Rashod Bateman, wide receiver 72, 220 overall right now. So this is a guy that will go undrafted in most leagues. This is a guy that you can get with the last pick in your draft. Again, when you talk about if you guys are new to fantasy, maybe you didn't follow the draft process, great prospect, good size, good production, first round draft pick, good draft capital. 6 to 8 week time frame is what we have from his sports hernia surgery that he had on August 13th. Again, this is a guy that's going to be the last pick in your draft. And if he's ready to go by week 2, week 3, week 4 of the season, he's going to be a huge waiver pickup. We saw Justin Jefferson, we saw Brandon Aiyuk, we saw T. Higgins start to get going around that week 3 to week 4 time frame. So if Rashod Bateman can come back in that time frame, and if you got a deep bench on your team, let's say you got 6, 7, 8 bench spots, just draft this guy with the last pick of your draft, put him on the end of your bench, and hold him until week 3, week 4 and see what you got with this guy, because I think this is going to be Lamar Jackson's number one receiver. I talked about the fact that Lamar Jackson is an underrated passer of the football. This offense will probably go a little bit more pass heavy than they did last year. And Rashod Bateman is going to be the catalyst for that. He's going to be that possession receiver that Lamar Jackson's been missing for all these years.
Yeah, I absolutely agree there. He is the most talented wide receiver in this receiving core. And I mentioned how good Elijah Moore and Devonta Smith were via reception perception. The guy that we're going to talk about next on this list also graded out well. But Rashod Bateman was 70th percentile or higher against both or all three of man, zone, and press coverage. So this guy can beat any type of coverage.
He was better than Jamar Chase in pretty much every measure, too.
Yeah. A smooth route runner, can separate. I absolutely love Rashod Bateman. And yeah, although the injury is a little bit concerning, he's giving you an incredible discount because of it. So fully agree there. The next name on the list is going to be Terrace Marshall, wide receiver from the Carolina Panthers. Currently going off the board, wide receiver 68, 186th overall. And you guys would have already heard me go fully in depth on him on the earlier today video. But Corey, I'll let you touch up upon him a little bit.
Yeah, wide receiver 68 right now is basically stealing. Much like Rashod Bateman, again, good size, good production, good draft capital. He was a mid-second round pick. What he reminds me of a lot from last year is T. Higgins and Chase Claypool, because with those two guys, we had receivers ahead of them. We had Tyler Boyd, we had AJ Green, we had Juju Smith-Schuster and Deontay Johnson. Those guys scared us off of drafting T. Higgins and Chase Claypool, but I'm not making that mistake again, because Terrace Marshall's the slot option in this offense. He's going to replace Curtis Samuel's role. And we've seen Sam Darnold in the past gravitate towards his slot receiver. We've seen him use Jamison Crowder in his Jets days. We've seen him use back to his college days. He's used Juju Smith-Schuster. He likes his slot receiver, and this scheme is very friendly for slot receivers too. And we also have the added benefit with Terrace Marshall that he could just straight up outplay these other guys. I think he could be a better receiver than Robbie Anderson. I don't know for sure, but he could just outplay these guys. And if anything happens to DJ Moore, if anything happens to Robbie Anderson, he can fill their roles. He can be the deep threat that DJ Moore is for this offense. He can be the possession receiver that Robbie Anderson is for this offense, because he's got a pretty well-rounded skill set. And like I said, he's a big receiver. He's talented. He's got good speed, good athleticism, and he can definitely produce in this offense. And I think Joe Brady having that familiarity with him going back to LSU is really going to help him out.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree on Marshall. And the biggest underrated part of him, in my opinion, as I touched upon on today's video, is the fact that outside of Christian McCaffrey, who's scoring the touchdowns on this team? Is it going to be Robbie Anderson? Is it going to be DJ Moore? I think Terrace Marshall, the guy who's had 23 touchdowns in the last 2 years, 19 total games in that time frame, who's playing for his college offensive coordinator from 2 years ago, is going to be that next option. Again, we all know Christian McCaffrey is probably going to be flirting with the 23 total touchdown range, and I fully get that. But again, if this offense is ascending like we believe it is, if Sam Darnold could have that type of year breakout like we potentially think could be in the cards, Terrace Marshall could score 10, 12, 13 touchdowns. I definitely see that in the realm of possibilities. And the fact that you're getting him as, a wide receiver 7 in fantasy right now, like, it's free money.
Yeah, and this is a great scheme, right? Joe Brady elevated Teddy Bridgewater to the point that he supported 3 top 30 wide receivers last year and a top 12 running back. So if Sam Darnold is the raw talent that he was coming out of USC still, if he hasn't been broken by Adam Gase, then there's a good chance Sam Darnold plays like Baker Mayfield played last year. And if he plays like that, then we're talking about a guy that could still be a top 30 wide receiver that you're getting at wide receiver 68. And like I said, if anything happens to the other two guys, he could have even more ceiling. So the last guy that we're going to get into, again, surprise, surprise, another rookie wide receiver, but De'Ami Brown, wide receiver for the Washington football team. I'll let you take it away with him.
Yeah, and with De'Ami Brown, this is more so a deeper league stash, in my opinion. Like, it's a guy that if I'm in the round 13, 14 area, I'm probably looking at. If you're in a more standard, shallow league, probably not going to be the first name that I acquire. But again, in the underdog format, in the 18-round format, if you're getting this guy off the board.
Leagues too.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're getting this guy off the board anytime after round 12, I think it's a good value. The reason being is that we have seen his role so far in the preseason really step up. I mean, he's had the second most snaps on the team behind Terry McLaurin in their preseason game against the Cincinnati Bengals, and he's really stepped up with the playing time. I do believe that this is a very talented outside wide receiver that can really complement Ryan Fitzpatrick's deep ball game. But the main thing that I kind of look at is the fact that Curtis Samuel's been dealing with that lower body injury for the past month. Dr. Jesse Morris has already come out and said that this is a skeptical situation that he has for him. If Curtis Samuel were to miss any time, if De'Ami Brown is able to acclimate himself in that Washington offense, I think we could see a guy that gets off to a hot start, gets off to a top 30 type of wide receiver type of start. And top 30 wide receiver numbers in the early portion of the season as a wide receiver 89 off the board. Like, really?
Yeah, again, De'Ami Brown strikes me a lot of a guy that we're going to be talking about next year once maybe Curtis Samuel is gone or whatever the case is. De'Ami Brown, I think, is going to be very productive as a rookie on a per target basis. So again, this is another guy. You brought up reception perception for the other guy. 78th percentile versus press coverage for De'Ami Brown in college, 60th percentile against man. This was a guy with 2 1,000-yard seasons before he was 20 years old. Like, this is a guy that is a very good prospect on paper, and his film is pretty good as well. So I'm willing to bet on a guy like that. Injuries happen. Shit happens in the NFL season. If De'Ami Brown somehow steps into a bigger role, and it's already happened with Curtis Samuel, then this is a guy that I expect to produce. And it's not like we haven't seen Curtis Samuel misused by this coaching staff before. He wasn't actually productive until last year when Ron Rivera was gone. So the fact that Curtis Samuel is now reunited with Ron Rivera isn't a narrative I'm getting behind, because he wasn't productive with Ron Rivera. He was productive with Joe Brady last year. So I think it's actually a downgrade to Curtis Samuel's value, not an upgrade. The fact that this coaching staff is familiar with him. I've talked about back in the dynasty content that we were making, De'Ami Brown is the deep threat in this offense. Ryan Fitzpatrick loves to push the ball deep. So another guy that could be at least a wide receiver 3 boomer bust option in good matchups, I think, this year. And in 12-team leagues with deep benches, 14-team leagues where you have a lot of flexes, I think he's going to have some flex appeal this year.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. Love De'Ami Brown. And yeah, anything else you want to add, or should we just get out of here?
No, we can head out of here. If you guys did enjoy that, like the video, comment on the video. Again, if you are new to the channel, we encourage you to subscribe. You will not regret it. We will be helping you all offseason, all season, dynasty, rookie, redraft, best ball, DFS, whatever you guys need help with, we will be there to help you. So subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you guys want a chance to get our rankings, you want our draft guide, you can go to underdogfantasy.com, deposit using promo code FSE. All you have to do is deposit $10. You'll get a $25 bonus on top of your $10 deposit, and you will get both of our draft guides for free. It's the best deal on the internet right now. So peace out, guys. Enjoy Wednesday.